So, I want to talk about today just the softer side of product management. I couldn't really come up with a better description other than that. You might have heard it in terms of like emotional intelligence, or basically things that aren't in the technical skills that would get your foot in the door, or anything outside of that perspective. So, before you even really dive into anything about this talk, I just wanted to see what you guys thought or had any reactions to the latest bird that has been throughout Camberville. What do you guys think about this from a product perspective? Any takers? Any strong opinions?
People are talking about it.
Yeah, people are talking about it for sure. But if you read the news, that there's a lot of reactions to this. So what is it? It's an electric scooter that you can reserve, just get around. Not that big of a deal. But there's a big impact that's going to happen. There's all these policy implications. Hey, Bird didn't get these requirements from the city of Somerville. If they're seen in Boston, they're just going to be banned outright, the mayor said, and taken to a tow yard. So it's just interesting, I thought at least, that there's a lot of possibilities for how a product is delivered, how people perceive it, how it's communicated. Bird obviously went the route of, hey, we're just going to drop it on the streets and see what happens, and that's kind of their strategy. And you can think of that a lot in just product in general, of how you communicate and how things are received. I'm not saying this is the best way to do it for sure. I don't think it would be very successful if you're just kind of doing whatever you want in your product job and not really listening to anyone else, but just a fun story. I think I spent too much time on this slide. So, before we step in a bit more, so part of this talk was going to be about mentoring, and this is something that I've done since I've gotten into products. And I started out a very similar course to product school. I was started in General Assembly. There's obviously some other things going on in terms of what I was trying to accomplish and career transitioning, but this was definitely a big milestone for me. And a lot of the feelings that happened through this were all of this rejection and continuing to work towards a milestone and just trying to get to that next level. And it's a really difficult path, and something that you don't necessarily want to forget about. And it's something that, related to product, it's kind of a day-to-day thing. Not everything's going to be a given. And so I wanted to tie in mentorship and kind of how product is working. So my first product job for the Zooksters in the Onion, this is kind of the look on my face for most of my time there. It was like a lot of fun, it was exciting, it was learning a ton, but it was also super stressful. And it was very difficult to manage all these things. And I was kind of learning and making decisions and working on things that were all new to me. And it was very difficult to kind of tell if I was doing a good job or not. Was I even working on the product that customers wanted? Was I making my internal stakeholders happy? It was kind of difficult to tell. And a lot of the times I hear people that I mentor, currently I'm mentoring a group of people from the Boston Product Manager Association in May. And they're saying a lot of the similar things of, it's really difficult to know if I have the right set of skills to move forward. What should I be focusing on? Same thing at Wayfair. So I was there for a short amount of time, but worked with people from Wayfair Labs, just an engineering program to kind of get people in the door, work on some real coding projects, release to production, go through that process, as well as a product manager intern. And you can kind of see how it's really difficult to manage learning, being able to work on these new hard skills at the same time, when really the focus can be, hey, can you code? Hey, can you design? The same thing happens with Intrepid, where we have apprentice projects. Similar story. We have apprentices come on as kind of a provisional hire. They work through and create mobile apps, web apps. These are actually mobile apps that didn't get released in the App Store, but We're fully functional. We just have to use static screens here. But it's really difficult to work through this and kind of tease out and balance the difference between, hey, I've never used Sketch before. I have to just work with that. And at the same time, it doesn't really, I'm working in Sketch, but I also have to make these other decisions. I have to talk to different people. It can be really difficult to balance all those things. And I think that's just a really difficult place to emphasize when you're kind of starting out. Or career transition. Let's say I know a couple of people in the audience are in advertising. They want to change to a different industry. You can kind of go through those same kind of feelings of, hey, I want to start somewhere, I'm trying to make this change, it's really hard, how do I communicate that? Even though I don't have this other experience that's outside of advertising, how can I do that and convince someone for a new kind of position? So to sum it up, these are kind of other things I hear about in mentorship. Like, what course should I take? Should I take a mobile app development course? Should I take a self-driving coding course that someone in the audience here is taking? What should I do? Kind of focusing on those hard skills, and which is certainly important. Second part is, what's wrong with my resume? How come I'm not getting any traction with it? How can I do better? And then finally, this is kind of, I don't think anyone really says this, it's just kind of how I felt when I was getting into product management. But how can I get into the club? Like, I don't have direct product experience, it feels like a club, how do I convince people to do that? And I believe that, sure, hard skills, learning how to code will be able to help, but also, soft skills will be able to help with that and really take it over the edge and differentiate you. Whether that's, hey, you're starting out with a product manager position or you're just trying to level up. So, generic advice that I give. I say focus on a couple things. You can't do them all. I know there's like some silly Warren Buffett quote that's like, hey, write down 20 things that you want to do over the next year, and then cross out 18 of them, you have 2 left, and don't do any of the other 18. I don't think you have to be that extreme or decisive, but you definitely want to focus on what makes sense for you. What kind of product manager position do you want to be in? What kind of role, what kind of company do you want to work for? Stemming off that too, passion. Like, you can do a lot of different things as a product manager position. You can be more of a project manager. You can almost be a designer. You can be kind of a scrum master. It really depends on the context. It depends on like how big the company is. But kind of tease that out. And lastly, it's all about perspective too. It can feel a lot of the times like, hey, I'm not doing as good as I should be. And I've seen a lot of product managers, one recently from BPMA, who reached out to me, and he had an MBA, he had a background in music production, which is a very technical process, and he had his own startup that didn't work out. And he was applying to like entry-level product analyst positions, just because he thought he didn't have the requisite skills. I was like, why are you doing that? He's like, go for a product manager position. What's holding you back? And I think he was afraid of the rejection. He was afraid that he didn't have all of those skills that he thought he might need to have. And I think that stems a lot from this diagram. Has anyone seen this diagram? I hope so. So this is one of those like overarching diagrams. Venn diagram from Martin Erickson. He's been in Boston a couple times, but he's a mind product guy. We're going to dive into this a little bit. So we talked about, all right, why is mentoring important? What am I seeing on the ground? What did I experience? And we're going to dive into some of the, what I would call, these are more of the hard skills. So, one thing that I always say about product is that it's really hard. You can be like this guy here. I don't really know if that's a great representation of product, but you're always tinkering, you're always experimenting. You're wrong about 80 to 90% of the time. And then the other part of the time, you have to convince people that maybe you made the right decision. It can be really tricky. Not only that, it's also a mess most of the time. You probably know like everything wrong with your product and company, and you also know things that are wrong with other departments that you're working with. It can be really tough. the same time, you kind of have to work through that and move forward. It can be difficult to do that day to day. But I would say it's still a lot of fun. It's engaging, it's dynamic, it's different. I don't know if my fiance over there would agree with me that maybe I'm a little crazy about it sometimes. But I still think it's a great place to be and a really interesting job. So getting back to this. So I really think that while this diagram you've probably seen a million times, it really hits on a core subject. So this is just trying to say, hey, typically it says, it says product management. So you exist in this intersection of business, UX, technology. There are all these other versions of this that are better, worse, what have you. But what I want to pose to you guys is, why do you think that this is a new role? What do you guys think?
You mean since the 90s?
What's that, sorry?
You mean since the 90s? I mean, I think there was product in the 90s and 2000s.
Right. But if all of these circles kind of exist,
It's not we enable the services more.
for sure. Anything else?
None of them talk to each other.
Sorry?
None of them talk to each other. You need someone to facilitate that.
That's true. Yeah, communication is a big piece.
You have to balance all three of them, and you have to come at it from the user's point of view.
Yeah, definitely want to balance them and come from the user perspective. But you can also think at the end of the day, say that your company is strapped for cash. Say you're a small company, you're starting out. Do you really need a position there? Let's say in technology, if that circle is all filled out, you can imagine this is like filled up with how much expertise you have in that area. If you're doing pretty well in technology, maybe you have some design or UX piece, it's kind of a generic bucket. You really don't always need this middle intersection. And I think that's important because you have to remember that you're not necessarily like a foundational piece. You exist to help out others. You exist to make all these other positions work better. And I think that a lot of product managers are thinking about, hey, I want to get into product management. You have all these ideas about Steve Jobs, or you're going to be coming up with all these ideas on how to implement them and come up with this best product ever. And I think that's always a great place to start. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that you're never going to be, the technology expert that the company is going to rely on, or necessarily the business expert or the UX expert. That's really not your role. Your role is to just help everyone do a better job. Alright. So now we're going to see how we do that. So I'm giving a little preview, but I think you can achieve that by using some soft skills. And by the way, we'll have a question Q&A session at the end, so feel free to save them, but if you really have a burning question, you can. So, similar to that Venn diagram of all the intersection of different functional areas, there are also, I think this came out from good, bad product managers, so correct me if I'm wrong, but there was this big piece about, hey, product managers are the mini CEO. And I think that I internalized this when I was starting out. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a product manager, I'm going to determine all these key decisions, I'm going to decide whether things get, built or not, I'm going to have so much leverage, and really it doesn't work out that way. You might think that, in some cases it might feel that way, but really it's not. But, functionally, you can be like a mini CEO. But you have to leverage these kinds of things. And you're dependent on others to kind of have that sort of leverage. So you're working with multiple teams as a product manager in your role. What you can do is you can make them happy working together. You can earn people's trust. People can confide in you. I think what's really interesting about this intersection here is that you don't necessarily have that direct authority, or you're not necessarily the one person to, be the tech owner is that you're able to have conversations with people that they may not have with other people. For instance, like Zipcar, I was able to have a lot of conversations with the QA department and kind of some issues that were going on there. And it was kind of like a sidebar mentorship type conversation, where I didn't really have any control over the situation that was going on. I did, give some advice, but probably wouldn't work out. But you can hear them out. You can kind of engage with them. You can create a relationship. And then hopefully later on, you'll be able to kind of work together. You'll trust each other and hopefully make a better product. It can be very personal. I would say that this is just, all of these circles are really people at the end of the day, and so you definitely have to be mega people-centric in the whole day. So as I was saying before, you don't have authoritative power to be like, okay, we're going to go in this direction 100%. But you do have some other powers. What do you guys think those are? What kind of powers does a product manager have?
Prioritizing features when we work on
Prioritizing, you said? Yep.
Long-term vision.
Long-term vision, for sure.
Being a central sponsor, like stakeholder input, and a lot of perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are all great points. So I've kind of distilled a lot of these kinds of powers. There are a lot of psychological ideas and theories about these, but this is kind of the simplified version. So one that's super effective is being an expert, I think, like Emily said. So you can know the product in and out. You can know the history of the product. Think of like the first 90 days kind of talk. You see a lot of articles about that, of making a real impact within the first 90 days. Reading all the wiki, reading whatever, maybe going a little too deep on it, talking to everyone. But I can give an example. So when I was in Zipcar, we had outsourced most of the mobile app development historically. So Zipcar had a mobile app for a very long time, but we never did any of the development in-house. We brought it in-house. I came on when the first iteration of the app was just about to go out and help shepherd that in. But really, the company as a whole didn't understand app development. The design team, the marketing team, most of the engineering group, it was new. And so we had to kind of evangelize it. And also, I had the luxury of my boss being 5 hours ahead. So most of the time, when it's my first product job, I have to answer all these crazy questions that no one knows about, and be like a liaison along with Meryl here to the rest of the company. But eventually, that started to let me have a lot of traction in meetings. I was invited to these high-level meetings, even though it was pretty entry-level. I would be able to answer a lot of questions that people had. People started to trust me. Now, certainly, I wasn't, answering every question. There were certainly technical questions I didn't know, historical things I didn't always know about. But also, I was able to consolidate it, make it easier to consume, communicate in different ways. And so that just helps a lot. It allows people to engage with you in different ways. And really be like a meaningful person on your team, around your products. Another one, reward power. And you guys heard about, product manager bringing the donuts. I think that you can bring in donuts all the time. It may work out for you. You want to celebrate releases and things like that. But you can also just be thankful for people working alongside you. You can just be nice. You can encourage certain behaviors of, hey, I noticed that you've been helping out the designers. Like, thank you for doing it. You're just working alongside with other people. Another thing that's super easy, I know it's at least review time for me at Intrepid, so you can help people out by saying, hey, just giving reviews. People have worked with you in the trenches, you've worked on releases. It's a great way that people are able to utilize that experience working together in a positive way. I'm not just saying, hey, you can giving out good reviews so that people like work for you more. It's not anything manipulative like that, but it's just kind of part of the relationship. What has to happen when you don't have authoritative CEO power? And the last one I want to emphasize is referent power. And what that means is a weird word. It just means that people enjoy being around you. People look up to you. Maybe you carry yourself in a certain way. And this isn't to say that, hey, you're just going to be friendly with everybody and everyone's going to love you. It's not going to be like that. But it's just some presence. It's a common force. It's, hey, the product manager is really good at translating something that the client says, at least in my perspective. There's a lot of client input that happens, and it can be confusing. And so a lot of my job is just translating it to easy to digest work. Say, hey, this is what we have to worry about. Let's not worry about this. And that just helps everyone work together better. So one other thing, I just wanted to tie in. We talked about before in terms of mentorship and those kinds of relationships that I think are really effective in the product development cycle, product management area. But I wanted to just talk about it in one other way. Because it might be difficult to tell, like, hey, how do I engage these soft skills? Like, how do I really know when I should communicate in a certain way, just let people down easy if I have to disappoint them? Like, how's that going to work? So hopefully this will help. So a great way to kind of engage these skills is just to be aware. And you can even be at a really micro level. You could be, okay, I just was in a meeting, and maybe I had to talk about a lot of different things. How did it go? Was I coming from a place of nervousness, stress? I can give you one example. So I was on a client call last week, and the client had a big demo coming up for this IoT connected TV system. Probably TV is bigger than this, and it was like the crux of their demo to their big CEO and to a couple other vendors. And it was really important for them. And we were providing daily builds of just little iterations and tweaks that the engineering team was developing. And we had a couple things left. We had some issues, so we were trying to iron out. And I was on a stand-up type call, and there was a developer who just had the day off, and he had a couple tickets assigned to him related to that demo. We were getting closer to the demo. And I just, was running stand-up, no big deal, we were talking a lot about this demo, everything's going fine. And I just said, oh, and there's some tickets assigned to Mark, and it'll be fine, he's a day off. And there was just silence from the stakeholder. And all of a sudden I got really worried. It's like, oh man, does he trust that we're going to be able to do this? He was not very communicative. He was doing these kind of one-liner emails. It's like, is he trusting that we're going to do that? And so we got off this stand-up, and we used a phone call. And I just asked the team, hey, do you guys think that the stakeholder, what do you think about that? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it, it's fine. We've been talking to him on the side, it's totally cool. So it's just a little good check-in, just to be aware. You can have these little moments of, hey, how did that go? Did I say that the right way? You're working alongside other people, and they can give you that feedback. You don't have to wait for some grandiose. And not only that, you can also just be aware of how other people are feeling around you. It's a big part of product management. Are people super stressed? Is Jason from QA, is he having a hard time focusing? Is something going on? Maybe I should go just talk to him and see what's up. That can be really effective and help you engage all those driving trustworthiness, communication, those kinds of things. You can also catch yourself doing some weird stuff. I don't mean to say that you have to have a surveillance camera in your head recording everything all the time, but it's just a helpful thing to think about. Another kind of weird one is trying to flip your perspective to say that everyone is doing their best in any given moment. Now I know that The product development, we said that it's hard. It's, you don't know if product market fit is going to happen. You don't know if the customer's going to like what's happening. Your team is under a ton of stress. You're running out of money. Everything is going bad. And it's very easy to get into some sort of bullshit. It's very easy to say, oh, this stakeholder is being crazy, oh, this client is totally off base. It doesn't really get you anywhere. And you're not necessarily in control of that situation. It doesn't really help you not part on it. I think, there's also the kind of thought process around ignorance versus malice here, but I think it's a good way to think about this. Just everyone's doing their best in every given moment. There's lots of circumstances around that. Totally fine. Can't control it. But on the flip side, we can always do better. We can use any of those soft skills, technical skills, hard skills to do better. So you don't have to be down on yourself if for some reason you're releasing a product and it totally tanks and beat yourself up about that. Just know that you can do better next time. You can't necessarily change the past and focus on it. And this is just something that I emphasize with mentorship in general. Just a good way to stay positive. I wanted to end it this time on some other pieces like tropes of product management. So I stole this image from Intercom, this really cool character. So if you're a product manager, you're new, you're experienced, a lot of the things that you're told to do is ask why questions. Why are we prioritizing this? Why do we decide to implement this feature before this? It's a very good question. It helps get at root causes in any sort of like post-mortem situation of some big crisis happens. I certainly know Wayfair. Our team managed to take down all of Wayfair, I think 4 times while I was there, so no one could check out internationally, which is always great. Getting lots of snares. But you can say why. I'll give you one other example. I was on site at a client. We were at this massive, I don't know why the table is so big. We're at this huge table, very far apart from each other. There was like 5 people in the room. And we were just going over some roadmap items. And the client got into the habit of, hey, we have a decent amount of scope for this upcoming release, but then the version after that was always like a mile long. It was everything that they wanted for 10 years. Just ongoing stuff. And so I kind of dug into it. I was like, why, what are we trying to accomplish with the version 2.2? What's the rationale behind that? Kind of why questions. And the client got mad. He's like, well, what do you mean? And it was kind of changed the whole dynamic of the conversation. And luckily, the team was able to smooth everything over. But you have to understand that this kind of question can be very probing, very combative. And especially in the context that you deliver it, which it was amongst his peers, we're a consultant, it's all the other VPs and whatnot. And he kind of felt threatened by that. Like, what, you're telling me I can't do my job? Like, why are you asking why? This is the roadmap. Another thing I like to think about is, hey, we like to have decisions based on data. Don't worry, we're going to make a logical decision because I have all this data to back it up, and I'm going to present this case, and everything's going to go great. Does anyone have an example of when they use data to back up a decision? Like, it presented it to a stakeholder? How did it go?
So, a couple jobs ago, I was tasked with determining if cutting language support for our bottom 5 languages was a good idea. And turns out it wasn't, for lots of reasons, but there was a couple of partners that would just be wiped out if we did that. And I presented that, and they had already made up their minds. And so it was just basically arming them with bad news for the decision they already made. They didn't love that. I mean, ultimately they did decide to move the languages because of it, but it was definitely not what it was.
Yeah. Alright, so we had a kind of negative experience of, hey, the decision already got made, had all this data, maybe it wasn't necessarily one good stakeholder, the data didn't really go to the point. Does anyone have any other examples yet?
In one place, we did a deep data analysis of all aspects of conversion on a page. And there was some early indication that the page took too long to load in different geographic locations. But that was very hard to measure and very hard to justify. It was also hard to know what conversion would look like at different performance points. And also, it was hard to fix. So that data point was difficult to push through because data is not black and white. But later it turned out that that was the nugget.
Right. So in that example, it sounds like the data might have been there, maybe it was more information, not too actionable, it was really hard to synthesize all together and really tease out what's going on. Well, they're all great stories. I would say for this, what we're trying to get across is, alright, say you make the best case ever, someone can just say, nope, don't agree. So it can be really difficult. It's another one of those positions where you have to really leverage different kinds of skills. How did you communicate? When did you communicate? Is it in the format that whoever you're trying to convince likes? Did they have a bad day? Any number of those things. Another thing, just a slight aside, is I had an example about kind of positioning a release cycle for a mobile app. And just to say, hey, if we're on this cadence of releasing, it would make all those other things really easy, and just to get features out there. And I presented that to a VP product, and she just immediately said, no. But one thing to remember is that I can obviously see that, this kind of came out of left field, she didn't fully understand it, and I kind of didn't necessarily say, oh my god, the world's ending, this is never going to work. Just wait again, bring it up another opportunity if you really believe in it, if you really think the data is there. No harm in doing that. Cool. And then finally, no. So I actually think that saying no is not that hard. I know that other program managers say that to me, and just say, oh, do you want to do this crazy thing? And no. But the hard part is having people trust you enough to go with that decision. So I think it's kind of interesting here. So you have to say no to what kind of crazy stuff do we have to say no to? We have to say no to the next big thing, something that all the customers want, maybe some technical optimization, maybe performance-based, maybe supporting additional users. All these things are good ideas. And you can't just do this. I don't think you can just go in the middle of everyone and just be like, no, I'm a product manager. Can't do it. You really have to have people that trust you to be able to do something like that. There has to be some sort of rapport going on and mutual respect. Because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily a decision, it's the whole company, it's a broader context. It's where the strategic vision is going that you certainly might be a part of, but oftentimes, a product is not the whole company. There's other things going on. So really, I think that these kinds of skills, the soft skills, think of it as kind of a mentoring experience. All the other team members that you're working with, it's not, if you're a mentor, just say, oh yeah, don't do that, do this. Don't take mobile development course, do data science. You can say that, it's not necessarily going to be very effective. At the end of the day, it's going to be that person that you're working with that's going to make the decision. All you can do is influence them, have them trust you, stay in touch. And so that's why I think that having these kinds of relationships, thinking about, focusing on where your passion lies, enabling others to kind of do the right thing is what it's all about. So I know that people starting out or looking to do better product management, don't forget that there are all these skills other than the Venn diagram that you can really focus on. And can make your story of, hey, I have no product experience, I'm just going to list out all this stuff and hopefully something will stick, to something really meaningful. And don't be afraid to wear a t-shirt like this and emphasize those soft skills.